and welcome to happilyeducated.com. I do not think it's an exaggeration to say that learning about human agency has been the most important lesson of my doctoral studies. Essentially, agency refers to humans' ability to make choices that influence the course of their lives. And the significance of this idea is very nicely explained in what is perhaps my favorite journal article of all time, Albert Bandura's Toward a Psychology of Human Agency. This article is both relatively readable, in comparison with other academic texts, and it's just packed full of thought-provoking information. So as Bandura explains, quote, "People are contributors to their life circumstances, not just products of them. To be an agent is to influence intentionally one's functioning and one's life circumstance." In other words, we can profoundly influence our own lives by making deliberate choices about how we want to live. Now, this does not mean that people can just do whatever they want, whenever they want, or that individuals are solely responsible for how their lives turn out. Our lives are heavily influenced by our environment, both in terms of natural surroundings and social structures. Nature has a number of ways of influencing our lives. For example, by wiping out homes during a storm, or by providing certain geographic features that encourage a specific lifestyle. Certainly life on top of a snowy mountain is going to be very different from life in the jungle. And social structures as well influence our lives in innumerable different ways. For example, by determining what type of education we receive and dictating how a person in our position should be treated. Now, however, it seems to me that people often are unaware of the power they have to shape their lives. And though this power is huge, and in many situations, it seems that people don't realize how that they even can make decisions, or they have decisions to make in terms of their own behavior. The first example of this that springs to mind is how, for example, if one person is rude or mean to another, that person who is the recipient of the unkind action might just, lash out angrily without stopping to consider that he or she could just ignore the offensive behavior or choose to respond in a non-aggressive manner. So, people often make decisions without considering the consequences of their decisions. And examples of this are absolutely unlimited, but extreme examples might include having children, purchasing things that you can't afford, or experimenting with highly addictive drugs. It kind of blows my mind sometimes that people don't think just a little bit more about doing these things that are going to alter their lives or could alter their lives in huge ways. Now, to be fair, certainly there are many legitimate reasons why people can't or don't always consider the consequences of their actions. And children and adolescents have an especially good excuse because their brains simply are not wired for that sort of thought process. But that does not change the fact that people's decisions have consequences and that their decisions play a really significant role in how their lives turn out. So until I learned about human agency, I wasn't consciously aware of how much power I had to shape my own life. On an abstract level, I knew it was important to make good choices, but I didn't really realize how many choice-making opportunities I have on a daily basis. As a non-enslaved adult, pretty much everything I do is a choice. And I think that's the ultimate secret of my happiness, really. That I never do anything that I don't want to do. Now, this does not mean that I only do fun or pleasurable things. Not even close. I do all sorts of things that I don't particularly enjoy, or they're not intrinsically enjoyable, but I do them because I think they are important or worthwhile in some way. However, I don't really mind doing tedious or boring or challenging tasks so long as I have a choice about whether or not to do them. I'm always free not to do something that I don't want to do, though of course I will have to deal with the consequences. I could decide to not go to work, but my boss and my students would be angry. I wouldn't get paid. I might get fired. Eventually that would, make it hard to pay the bills, and we might lose our house, and who knows what could happen. But still, It's a choice that I am free to make. So basically, I like the idea of human agency because it is super empowering. You know, every second of the day, I get to make decisions that shape my life. Um, and so if it's important to me to be healthy, I can choose to eat well and exercise. If I value nature, I can choose to recycle, drive less. What else? Call politicians who have power to protect the environment. If I want to be a nice person, I can choose to treat people well. Now, and I think once you start recognizing how the tiniest of decisions can move you towards the life you want, it's just amazing how powerful you begin to feel. You know, my recommendation is to start small. Choose to smile at the cashier in the grocery store, or take the stairs instead of the elevator, or floss your teeth before bed, or pick up a piece of trash on the sidewalk, for example. You know, realize that you could leave the dishes in the sink if you really wanted to, but that you actually benefit from washing them, even if only just by sparing someone else from having to do it. And so you might as well just go ahead and do it. Now, I called this post Human Agency Part 1, although I have no specific plans for Part 2. I just assume that I will probably want to talk about this subject again some other day because I think it is so incredibly important. But don't look for that post anytime soon. Also, I wanted to warn you that I've decided to cut back to one blog post per week. And my reason for doing this is simply that it takes a lot of time, although I really do enjoy writing these posts. You know, and as tempting as it is to neglect my teaching and my dissertation writing and this house renovation project in favor of writing blog posts, I think the consequences just aren't worth it. So, I hope you were able to make some good choices today as well. And on that happy note, happy learning.